All right, so ladies and gentlemen, in all seriousness, this is a segment that you all look forward to on a Thursday as much as we do. And it's what Shellz likes to call
Man Chat.
Now, we had a man chat today. We're looking at gambling addiction. And there is a programs manager of addiction counseling and support services at Rise Life Management. That is our guest. And we're happy to have him and welcome him to the program right now. Richard Henry. Good morning, Richard.
Blessings.
Good morning, sir. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. You have a really wonderful first name. Like myself. I had to sneak that in, Richard. You know, go.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for joining us. The whole matter of gambling addiction is something that plagues a lot of individuals and, by extension, families. And so we're very happy to have you looking at it this morning, how it affects men. It is said that men are 7.5 times more likely than women to become problem gamblers, according to research. The question is, what makes them more prone to developing an unhealthy gambling habit? Well, Richard Henry is going to help us through that. First of all, Richard, let's look at this, the whole subject of gambling. And how would you define gambling? What is gambling?
Gambling is an act whereby an individual risks money, property, or something of value on a game or an activity that has very little skill involved. And that's a key component.
Mm-hmm. You don't need to have a skill.
Yeah, well, there are lots of arguments about, if it has a skill, then it's not gambling because there's that additional component of you trying to manipulate or maneuver through luck. And luck is an important component or characteristic when you're talking to people about gambling-related issues, because persons who have gambling problems tend to think that they can manipulate chance and luck, and that's not possible. And therein lies the problem, because then you think that there's a skill component where there actually isn't.
You're so right. The other term that I want you to explain is, please define addiction now.
All right, so addiction, broadly speaking, now talks about a habit that someone develops that can either be to something that is physically habit forming or something that is behavioral. So there are two types of addictions. Addiction to a substance or addiction to an activity like gambling, which has just come into the realm of an addiction maybe in the last 6 years, as according to the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. But in developing this habit, the individual then develops problems with occupationally, going to work, they develop family-related issues, they develop financial issues as well. They develop social issues. Their friends change. Persons who they normally hang around with don't hang around with them anymore. They tend to hang around persons who are also involved in that activity.
Okay. Greetings, Mr. Henry. Shellz here. So
yes.
What you just listed a while ago, losing friends, problems at home, would you say those are the signs to look out for when gambling is looking like an addiction?
Yeah, most certainly. The gambling is seen as a hidden addiction, because if someone comes into my office and says, I have an issue with marijuana and I'm working with them, if they come in for treatment one day and I say, let me test you, have you smoked? And he says, no, I can test him and find the marijuana.
Right.
The difficulty with the gambling-related issue is that I have no test. So if he's gambling, I have to rely on what is called collateral information. So before we start the course of therapy, I'll say to him, I'm going to speak to your mother, your sister, your auntie, your girlfriend, whoever it is, to get collateral information. Is that okay? Because that's how I will know whether or not something is going on, because his family members actually know when he's in the throngs of his gambling. Mm-hmm. And I have had lots of success with that, with mothers telling me, yes, his attitude has changed. He started coming home at the same time as when he was gambling, etc.
The average gambler, will he come into your office, though, and admit at some point that he has a problem with gambling?
No, sir. Therein lies the difficulty. There are lots of persons who have gambling-related issues. I think if I recall last data, maybe 4 out of 10 maximum will come and get help, which is below average. The rest of persons are out there, and of course, causing havoc to family. With people work in situations where they have access to money, that's an issue as well. Because remember that the main feature of a gambling addiction is that these persons have issues with the way that they think in cognition. So they're thinking that they have a particular skill where they actually don't have one, and so they'll do what we call borrow money from work, because tonight is the night I'm going to win, because I've worn my lucky socks, or I'm going to change the cashier that's working with me. Believe it, and then they lose. So then you're down again, and you have to get more money to try and win back.
Right.
And that's what we call chasing. So it's a whole cycle.
I happen to be at a spot sometimes in the days where I hear I hear some gamblers who for instance, if they're playing, like some of the regular lottery games and so on, they keeps referring to somebody as the brother play, or the brother play such a number. And it's almost as if they get to the point where they feel that they're going to get the brother one day. But yes.
There's nothing wrong with getting the brother as long as you know that the brother is fictional. Because it's what keeps you in the game. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with a rake. The problem is some people think that the rake is real. So because I'm driving down the road and I just saw a dead drunker, it is supposed to play. That's not true.
The vision is clear.
Right. As long as you understand a rake is a rake, you're fine. The people who have gambling-related issues are the people who think that the rake is supposed to play, and when it doesn't play, they go back again.
Where do you put the person who just feels like, okay, I have some extra money and I'll just play, try my chances at something once in a while or once a week, or is that problematic?
Of course not. No, man. We have no problems with gambling, and our program, I should tell you outright, is sponsored by the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Commission.
Okay.
Fully funded, and it's been funded for the last 17 years, since inception. Wow. Remember that the BGLC, they are regulators, they're not promoters. So, I mean, what they're doing is very proactive and moving in the right direction in terms of providing services for persons who develop gambling-related issues. But to your question, that's an occasional gambler. There are people then who move into the realm of being a social gambler. So there's John and Philip who like to go to the gaming lounge, and they go every Friday, and they have $10,000 disposable income. They can afford to lose it. When they lose that or win, they go home at the end. The person who we have an issue with is who goes there with $10,000, can't really afford it, lose it, and then decides that, guess what? The luck is around the corner. I'm going to take out the money I have saved for back to school, because I'm going to multiply it in the next 20 minutes. He then goes and loses that as well and begins a process of what we call chasing.
Yeah. Okay.
So most people do not have gambling-related problems. Most people who gamble do not have gambling-related problems. The percentage of persons worldwide is somewhere between 1% to 10% of any population.
Okay.
And it varies.
But there are some serious problems, especially within families that have developed. I mean, I've heard of instances where persons have bet, or shall we say, gambled on their partner, their business, their possessions, and often end up losing some of those very valuable assets due to gambling. You see a lot of those kinds of cases?
I don't see a lot, but I've come across cases where persons have, taken their title for their card to go and gamble. It's not gambling against the establishment that they go to, but maybe sold to someone in the establishment so they can have the cash right away to be able to gamble. And that car is not sold. That car is sold for little to nothing. And it would be a car, I'll give you a hint, that brings in income for the family. So you know where that is leading.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Henry, talk to us a little about Rise Life Management Counseling. And are there support services for men who are addicted to gambling?
Oh, definitely. And thankfully, because of the BGLC program, that is free. There's no charge. And Rise Life Management does a multiplicity of programs. So it's not just the program we have for responsible gambling is just a piece of what it is that Rise does. But within that responsible gaming program, we also do underage gambling prevention. That's a big program that we have, because if you notice that the opportunities to gamble in Jamaica have multiplied significantly. So our statement is it's not business as usual. Young people now have to have, and these are young people under the age of 18, have to have the requisite skills to negotiate what they're seeing, what they're hearing on the radio, to understand that gambling is adult business and there are consequences for underage gambling.
There might be a gambler who, whether or not he or she has admitted, by the way, there are more men than women that have this problem, right?
Yes.
Uh-huh. So one such person might be listening right now and would love to make a move at getting out of this this problem situation. What's the first thing that gambler needs to do?
Write this number down, 1-888-991-4146. Call that number and the process will start. We'll set an appointment, you'll come in, and we'll begin the process of treatment. As long as the person has the willingness and the awareness that they need to do something different.
Yeah. All right. Help is definitely at hand. And the number once again, 888-991-4146.
Yes.
All right. Richard, you've said a lot this morning, and we thank you for sharing, and we wish you a wonderful day, and continue the good work over there at Rise Life Management. All right?
Thank you very much, sir.
All the best to you and your team.